Well, here we go. Another great day here in Florida. We got this hurricane they keep talking about that's gonna. Oh, what the hell? It says we're gonna have. Where the part of town where I live, I might get 15-mile-an-hour winds with 25-mile-an-hour gusts, but we're all gonna die. And they just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. But that's not what it's all about. Sporting my Trump hat today because I'm proud to have a president that cares about all Americans and Americans first and America first, and then we'll worry about the rest later. However, let's talk about some shit, then we'll get into opiates. All right, let's talk about more people are killed from cigarettes than everything else combined, but God knows all these states want this fucking tax money, so they're in bed with these cigarette companies and I guess maybe the medical community to give all these fucking people cancer and all these other related diseases so everybody can make this huge amount of money off these fucking people addicted to smoking, of which I used to be one, but I quit so long ago I can't even remember when. But look at all the things, from the heart problems and everything, lung replacements, everything, just this incredible amount of money caused and death caused and pain and disruption just because of legalized cigarettes. It's just so absolutely fucking ridiculous at this point in time. Also, then let's throw alcohol in the mix, huh? Of course, then again, all the people that die from alcohol and the related diseases and the cost, and once again, the hospital windfall profits with the drug company windfall profits and all the other shit. But let's not fuck with any of that, not the big money stuff, because all the states want that fucking tax money. And they just don't give a shit how many people die. So just call it like it is and say it like it is. Now, let's go on to this fake fucking opioid fucking epidemic. Come on. Right, I have a permanent disability that requires opioid therapy. Guess what? I get a prescription from the doctor. So if you want to track the fucking numbers of the opioid epidemic that you want to deal with drug companies like Sue and Johnson and Johnson. Johnson and Johnson isn't dealing dope in the street. They're not lacing stuff with fentanyl in the fucking street and killing people. So if you want to run the numbers, let's run the numbers of the opioid deaths of people with legitimate prescriptions separately from people in the street that are getting murdered and maimed and just destroyed by this fucking fentanyl. And oh yeah, it's an opioid, so we throw it all into one bin, which is bullshit. They just seized a shipment of fentanyl they found somewhere, said it was enough to kill 14 million fucking people. The drug is too strong, and I don't know the name of it, but I know there's another drug they've just created that's 50 times stronger than fentanyl. To be used for what? Who in the fuck knows? Because you have to administer such a microscopic the fuck amount to get anything done. Who cares? The oxycodone I'm going to say, is probably bad enough because it's synthetic. Why can't we just go back to morphine and just up the dose to what the person needs, rather than go to these synthetics or these killers like fentanyl just because they're cheap and we want to give somebody a small amount. It's just absolutely fucking ridiculous. Also, there is an approved drug out there now that is having great results for the people that can afford it. It's a non-opioid for chronic pain. It works really well. I wish I had the name of it, but I forgot it. I read it in a medical magazine, actually in a doctor's waiting room. However, of course, you can't find what? Can't find one fucking insurance company, including Medicare, to pay for it. So apparently nobody wants me off opioids because the new drug does what? Oh, it costs more. The article didn't say how much more, but does it really fucking matter if we're having this supposedly big problem? But, all the bullshit is all the bullshit. Just like, really? Breast cancer can't be cured by now? Really? They've almost wiped out pediatric cancer, but they can't touch breast cancer? Fuck no, there's too much money being made. So yeah, follow the Benjamins, baby, as that towel-headed bitch would say. But she needs to get her fucking anti-American ass out of our what the fuck is wrong with the people in Minnesota? It's bad enough what they did in Michigan, right? I get it. We have some states now that are have large Muslim communities, just as they have in fucking Canada. And the idea is to come in and bring Sharia law and everything fucking with it and get enough numbers where they can impose their will upon the rest of us. But, in order to do that, then what do you end up with? Another fucking Hong Kong because we have the rights. Well, we have the right to bear arms. Let's cover every fucking thing today. So I'm wearing my Trump hat. They say, do you need an AK-47 to go hunt deer? Fuck no. That's not why they gave us the right to bear arms. They gave us the right to bear arms. So if we end up in a situation like them poor motherfuckers in Tokyo, we can all go home and get our AK-47s and fucking shoot down the government that's trying to oppress us and take the fucking thing back. We wouldn't have to listen to fucking crying Chuck Schumer. We could just go up there and just take fucking Washington back and fucking put our own people in there and say, fuck it, we've had it with this money shit, and we want some real goddamn action. Absolutely incredible. So many areas in the big cities of this country are like third world countries, man. They're just littered with fucking, and it's like anything else. The people have been trained to the culture and follow what they're trained and used to do. It's ridiculous. Why would people shoot at each other, maim each other, just because they think there's some fucking hard ass that can sell some fucking dope to somebody else? But there it is. And, I take let's talk seriously now. I take instant release oxycodone with nothing mixed with it. So that means I don't take a time release pill like Oxycontin. I refuse to take it, where they were going to give me a pill that was going to force me to take a pill every 12 hours, regardless of how I felt, that was going to pump so much opiate into my system. And at the current time, I take 30 milligrams a day, instant release. It's a 4 to 6 hour dose, so it's 3 times a day. I don't know of anybody writing Oxycontin at a 15 milligram for 12-hour dose. But you can't break mine down, you can't cook it, you can't make it any stronger, you can't do anything about it. But I doubt this baseball pitcher that died from fentanyl, oxycodone, and alcohol. I doubt he bought all that shit on the fucking street. So, so much for sending people to fucking pain management who will combine and write any fucking thing anybody wants just to get that fucking copay and that payment. The care for people needs to return to the fucking primary doctor. I'm old enough, I've seen this cycle through this way twice. I happen to have Rick Scott on his fucking way out take a big kickback of money from the fucking medical community to make it such a pain in the ass for primary physicians to not want to treat chronic conditions, which is horseshit, because who knows what's going on in my life? Who knows where I've been, what testing I have had, what treatments I have had, who's got my full medical records and actually goes over it? My primary physician. What does a pain management doctor do? Oh, this is what you're on. Okay, here's your script. We'll see you in 4 weeks. Give me another $50 fucking dollars. Nothing gets accomplished, right? It's just a big fucking money trail. They did this once before in Florida, and all that happened, they had people coming from out of state and everything, crossing state lines, lining up at these fucking pain management clinics, getting fucking opiates from everything from a sprained ankle to a fucking hangnail, to actually people like me who have a permanent disability. And then they said, well, shit, these have become pill mills. These people don't know the people's medical history. They don't know what their records are. They don't know what's going on in their life. They're just writing scripts. So we need to give this back to the primary physician. And now, because of the kickback Rick Scott got on his way out of governorship, they flipped it back again. So it won't be long before they're being called pill mills again. The idea of the whole thing would be they should be a specialist, as they claim, like any other specialist. So you would go with a referral, and they would take the time to look over all your records, your condition, your treatment, and see what would work best to control your pain. And then once that area is reached, then you return care back to the primary, because obviously you don't need to see a specialist just to write a script every month, which, this used to come like any other drug. You would get 3 refills and then check in once a quarter, and that was the federal law. But now they started all this damn horseshit. For example, I'm on limited income. I take 2 controlled substances, and on my insurance plan they're tier 2. But because of the way fucking Florida handles everything, right, I have to go to the doctor and be witnessed peeing in a cup once a month, for crying out loud, to make sure I'm actually using it. Like I want to sell the shit. Nobody wants the shit I'm on anyhow, because it's too fucking weak and they can't break it down and make it stronger, cook it down, or any fucking thing else. But I'm kind of wandering a little bit on my story. But the gabapentin for the nerve pain, which is the one that'll give you the mood swings and make you a little bit loopy, that's not a controlled substance, and nobody gives a shit about that. But long story short, under my insurance plan, if it wasn't for this fucking horseshit like they got lined up in Florida, and this bullshit with this permanent conditions now only getting 30 days, mail order drug services from these insurance companies will all require a 90-day prescription from the doctor. All right, I'm on limited income. I'm on 2 controlled substances. All right, and the gabapentin. And what is it? And the Zantac over the counter, so we can't count that anymore for GERD. And I'm on a generic Lipitor for some cholesterol shit. But the long story short, if I was able to, under the Florida laws and the national laws nowadays, where I could go back like I could in the old days and get each and every one of my drugs through the mail order program of my insurance company, my copay would be absolutely zero for everything that I'm on, because my insurance company calls everything I'm on exactly what they are, a tier 2 generic. I understand many insurance companies, because they want the fucking money, take these controlled substances and make them a tier 3. However, I'm going to educate you on the one thing, okay? If you look up the meaning of a tier 3, so we won't even want to go into 4 and 5. If you look right, tier 2 says generic drug. Tier 3 says branded name specialty drug. Well, all of my drugs are generic. So how in the fuck can an insurance company raise them to a tier 3 and call them a branded name specialty drug when, one, it's not a specialty drug, and number 2, it's not a brand name? Shit, I'd rather have the brand name from the pharmaceutical company that manufactured it, because we'll end this thing with one more piece of information for you about these fucking generic drugs that they force us to take. They are not the same drug that just came off patent. Look up what a generic drug is. Look it up. We have so many resources now, but people just fucking do whatever the doctor says and don't look any fucking thing up for themselves. A generic drug is from the same family of drugs of the original drug that is believed to have a like or a similar reaction and usage in the body as the original drug. So God only knows what you really get. Plus, as far as what do they call that? Tolerance levels, not the patient tolerance levels, but specific tolerances. Like in manufacturing, you might have a tolerance on a screw or something that it has to be plus or minus, 10 millimeters. So if I have a 10 milligram oxycodone that's supposedly generic, the manufacturer is allowed to manufacture that drug with a tolerance level that ranges from its 10% too low in oxy to 10% too high. So that's a 20% swing. And there are generic drug manufacturing companies that have good records of 10 milligrams is 10 milligrams. There's a group where 10 milligrams is minus 10%. There's a group where it's plus 10%. And then there's groups where it's just kind of how it should be. It's just however each particular lot just happens to come out. And as a patient, trust me, you can tell the difference. But, we'll get off them, but there's other drugs people take. And do you really want to be taking a drug in the same family of drugs as what the original drug is, that they believe would have a light type reaction within the body and hopefully treats about the same thing somewhat the same way? And if you're going to tier 3 it and call it a brand name specialty drug, then give me the brand name drug. Don't have it say oxycodone. Have it say fucking Percocet. And don't send me off to a generic manufacturer. Send me off to the company that formulated it so I'm getting real oxycodone. Hell, this stuff gets so complicated because the oxys are synthetic, that they won't show up on an opioid panel for a drug test. So these motherfucking doctors can't keep their shit straight. So they'll run a fucking opioid panel on a person and say, oh, you failed your drug test. Of course, they won't. I say, well, yeah, call the lab and find out what's going on. Fuck no, I ain't got time for that. So you call your lab yourself and say, how did I fail my drug test? Well, we can't talk about plus or fails with a patient. Well, fucking course you can't. I said, I'm not asking you for that. I'm not asking you for what you can't give me. Did the doctor submit the right test code for oxycodone? No. The doctor ran a straight opioid panel, oxycodone synthetic, and will not show up on an opioid panel. It has an individual test for itself. It has to be run under an oxycodone code, all by itself. So all of you that are failing your drug tests and being threatened to be taken off the painkillers that you so desperately need for permanent conditions, call the labs. They'll tell you whether or not they're running the right test. And usually, like in my case, it's happened twice. The lab was more than happy to contact my doctor's office and explain to them once again exactly what fucking test needs to be ran in order to see what I'm actually taking. So with all that, only thing I can say is, hey, what I'm going to get probably a dozen fucking views of this video, but my buddy Jericho Green, what's the deal here? Right? What I have. Because I know it's got to be a racial thing. He's black. Every fucking thing he says, he drives. I sit in the chair. Every fucking thing he says, and we agree on damn near everything. But as soon as he puts something out, he gets 45 to 100,000 views. So I get it. You know, don't tell me there's not no racial preference in this country. Nobody wants to listen to a white guy that makes sense. That's why they all keep fucking with Donald Trump. Like they're all saying, oh, Donald Trump's going to take everybody off fucking welfare assistance. Donald Trump's going to take everybody off food stamps. Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that. No, he said he was going to cut fucking federal money assistance to illegal aliens. Well, why in the fuck should I be paying for somebody that's an illegal alien? Right? I should be. What the hell? I should get a lowering in my costs for drugs, a lowering in my co-pays. Right? Increase coverage on my fucking Medicare and my Medicare Advantage, but instead I can't because there's so much money being diverted to take care of these motherfuckers that didn't come over here legally. And you talk to any of the people that are naturalized citizens, they don't want the illegals either. And listen to what they have to do. They are required to learn English to be an American citizen, which is neither here nor there. I don't give a fuck anymore. But this dual language shit is just fucking killing me. Multilingual. Give me a fucking break. Pick one. If I gotta learn something else, that's fine. I don't give a fuck anymore. But fucking pick one and let's go with it. But also in the oath that they take, I pledge my allegiance to the United States, to its flags and its beliefs. And I denounce the beliefs and systems from which I came, and I want to be an American. That doesn't mean you set up your own little subculture until you have enough fucking babies so you can outvote people like me and then change the fucking country into some fucking Muslim clusterfuck, which isn't going to happen because once again, guess what? We got the right to bear arms in this country, and we're not as racially divided as some of you fuckers think. When you come to attack all of us as Americans, we have a kind of a way of banding together. And then we all fight together and we bleed together. And that's how we win. And that's how we're the greatest country in the face of the earth. Now, if we would just quit killing these fucking babies in the mother's womb, right? Like in Chicago, the #1 cause of death for a black child is abortion. Give me a motherfucking break. Don't talk about gun control. Talk about life control. Anyway, I am out. Jericho Green, I wish you would look at this and put it on your website. It's important information and some fucking people might look at it. Over. Hey, I'm out. Let's see what happens.